Hi, good evening. My name is Dan Suttles. I'm the chief of police here at Bear Valley. Just wanted to take this opportunity to discuss what it is that the police department does, what some of my philosophies and goals are, and then also a little bit about the gate. So for those of you that don't know, I came here from the city of Glendale. It's in Los Angeles County. I believe that our agency was about the fourth largest police agency in Los Angeles County. And there are specific duties that police departments are providing to their residents. And the reason why I wanted to bring up this slide is because this one shows some of the regular duties that we do here. And the thing that I thought was interesting when for the last, 6 months that I've been here is that the duties that I did in, or the services that we provided in Glendale are exactly the same as the services that we provide here in Bear Valley. In other words, there are core services that we provided, and they're the same core services that we provide here as well. Another point that I wanted to bring up was how pleased I was when I got here with the collaboration that we have with other entities. In large cities, we don't get a chance to collaborate as closely as we do here in Bear Valley. And one of the ones I wanted to point out was our Disaster Preparedness Advisory Council. Now, this is a council that's made up of residents from Bear Valley, and utilizing their level of expertise, if you will. And this was important to me because it gave me a chance to collaborate with some of these individuals to come up with planning and recommendations that we take to the Public Safety Committee and then eventually to the Board of Directors. Another point that I wanted to bring up was community engagement. Earlier, I talked about some of the duties that we provide. Those duties are our core services. The core services are those duties that we provide that are things like patrol. These are things you see, patrol, responding to calls, things of that nature. Outside of these core services, you get into a level where you're starting to provide a service that's a little bit more bring this up is because all agencies try to do community engagement as best as they can. And when I say all agencies, I'm talking across the country. But the challenge that most agencies have is the fact that they have to focus on their core services much more, and they don't get the opportunity to give that extra little personal touch that allows us to have that personal engagement. One of the things that we enjoy here is we do have a low level of crime. And that allows me to focus on areas outside of our core services because our core services are handled. And that allows me to look at things such as that community engagement. Community engagement's important because it gives you that legitimacy for your department. It's the things that your community sees. It's the things that make them feel as though they have a police department that is engaged with them, obviously. When I talk about doing it with a personal touch, this is where I've really seen a difference between where I used to work in the city of Glendale to where I work here. We have the ability to do things at a different level. And I'll give you an example. One of these bullet points here is the elder assistance. I know that all cities have their issues with being able to help those that are in need, especially when it comes to elder assistance or the mentally ill. But sometimes it's really not the best entity to use as the police department. You know, sometimes there's resources that would be better handled by other entities. But the police department typically is the one that gets called first. And our community is no different. There are individuals that I'm aware of and within our community that, you know, they're a little bit on the older side. They have some issues that are starting to arise from that, and maybe they don't have any family or things that can help them out. But what I found out is, unbeknownst to me, this one particular lady who needed that very much that kind of help, one of our officers was actually stopping by her house every day just to make sure that she would plug her cell phone in, because her family on, I think they live in Virginia, couldn't get a hold of her. And so this is that type of service that I'm kind of trying to explain or talk about. Police departments will respond to calls and we'll give the elder assistance that we can. But at that little extra thing where these officers, when I find out that they're stopping by people's houses on their own to make sure that they're taken care of, that's the type of thing that I encourage within the officers, and the type of thing that I think makes a difference. I think as Bill was mentioning earlier, there are some polls that have been taken in the past. This slide shows a poll from 2020. It's the Cobalt Community Survey, and this obviously took place before I was here, but it means something to me as the chief of police as I look at these types of polls and I can take information out of them and utilize them. This one was comparing I believe it was 1,079 different communities. And as you can see, when it came to some of the questions that were being asked about the satisfaction of the community, was that the police department ranked high. So what does that tell me as the chief of police? It tells me that there's a level of satisfaction that's here. It tells me that, okay, the core services that I discussed earlier are being handled. That tells me that I have the opportunity to start to focus on the community engagement, which I keep on hitting on that because it's important to me, because I think that's the thing that makes a difference between agencies, different police agencies, the ability to have that level of community engagement. So there was another poll that was recently taken, and this one you might remember because this one just happened in June of 2022, a poll that was related to this topic we're talking about tonight. But this one asked how important is the police department? And this one, again, means something to me as the chief of police. When I see that there is a high level of importance, what that tells me is that there's also a high level of expectation from the residents that I live up to a certain bar. So that's it for that one. Now I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about our gate and what it means to me coming into Bear Valley as the chief of police. The gate to me is another layer of security. If you will, it's like a 1-2 punch combo. I have a police department and I have a gate. I like to illustrate that with a story that I've told in the past. And this has to do with me when I was a young officer. I was a rookie officer in Glendale. And late at night, I remember arresting a gentleman in La Cañada, I'm sorry, La Crescenta, which is the northern part of Glendale, very quiet little area. And I arrested him late at night, and he had been breaking into cars. And when I looked at his license, I noticed that his address was like 50 miles away. And as we were driving down to the police station, I asked him, I said, did you really come 50 miles just to break into cars? And he said, yes, I did. And I was like, well, why? Why would you do that? And he says, well, I come here because people don't lock their cars. And that was interesting to me. And it's something that has stuck with me for all these years. And the reason why is because it dawned on me at that moment that there are individuals that are opportunists. They're looking for that opportunity. There are crimes of opportunity and there are criminals of opportunity. Now, granted, I understand that not all crimes are crimes of opportunity, but this one that I had illustrated earlier was. And I know that people who are criminals of opportunity are looking for the path of least resistance. And if I have that individual, the one that's willing to drive 50 miles to break into cars, if he were to pull up to the corner of Bear Valley Road and Cummings Valley Road, and he had to make a decision as, am I going to turn right and go past that gate that has a police department right next to it, knowing that when I leave Bear Valley, I got to go right back through there? Or am I going to go to another community where they don't have any of those things? And my experience is that people go where the path of least resistance is. They don't want that hassle or that risk. So this slide, I think, is important. It was interesting to me. This shows how much traffic we actually have go through our gate. This was something that was counted back in 2019. Our roads crew put out those, you may have seen them in the roads before, you run them over, they count the cars. And one thing that I thought was interesting, not only the pure number, but even at nighttime, at midnight, we have 60 cars per hour. So there's a lot of traffic that comes through there. And our regular duties again that we perform at the gate, there's a level of expectation that I have for our staff, and that level of expectation includes being ambassadors for our community. And that means to, give directions, to be pleasant, to give that customer service. I believe it's like something like 70% of our staff are residents here. I think that's goes a long way in being able to provide that level of service that I've expected. And if you notice in this picture, there's two people here. And that's important because I wanted to point out, with the previous slide that showed how many vehicles go through there, and the fact that we have that many vehicles plus other duties that take place inside that shack. So we have one individual that actually be at the window that lets cars in and maintains the security, but we also have the phone calls that are coming in. We also have the computer that they have to run. So as people are calling in, I believe there's still a large number of people who would rather phone call their passes in than use our portal. So we have somebody there that can help with that. And I like to say they do it with a personal touch. And again, I want to get back to the same poll that we saw when I was talking about the police department. And again, this one shows how important the gate is to people. And again, this one's even higher than it was at the police department, which for me, and I'll reiterate, as the chief of police, when I look at this, what this means to me is that there's a high level of importance, there's a high level of expectation that we provide that high level of service.